So if you have never oiled or greased your Baitcaster, you are 100% in the right place. By the end of this video, your reel is going to feel noticeably different. Let's hop in. Now let's start oiling the external moving parts, right? First, let's start with the clutch bar, the thumb bar right here. All right, so I love using Lucas fishing reel oil, this stuff right here, and I really love it because of this applicator tip, which makes it really nice not to over oil because it allows me to just do one drop. So put this one drop of oil right there, other side right there, and then of course work it in. Next up, going to be these handles right here. So one drop of oil right in there, one drop of oil in there, and then of course just work them in. All right, next up, and you're not going to see it on this reel, usually you have a slide rail. And so I don't have one here because it's connected to the worm gear. Let me show you what I mean. Like for example, right here, there's a slide rail. You guys see that piece of metal there? So if you have that piece of metal that uses as a slide to retrieve your line, go ahead and put some oil on that slide rail. Then underneath your slide rail, this is a Tatula, you're gonna have a worm gear. And so on worm gears, I like to grease. So I'm gonna move that all the way over to the right. And I use the Penn Precision Reel Grease, the blue. Take a paintbrush, just put a little bit on there. And so just paint that right there, turn it a little bit, paint it again, right? Move that over to the other side, paint that a little bit, move it, paint, and folks, work that in. Question I get often is how often should you service your Baitcaster and oil and grease it? And there's no strict timeline, right? It really depends on how you fish. Mine 90 days might mean 60 days on the water, while somebody else's 90 days might mean 2 outings and a sunburn. So really, if your reel starts feeling tight or gritty or scratchy, if you dropped it and completely submerged it in the water, if you fished it consistently for 2 to 3 months, been in rain, it's been in sand, been in those dirty conditions, or if you've owned it for a year and you've never done it, it's time, right? Listen to your reel, it will tell you when. All right, next up, we're gonna remove the side plate here and we're gonna oil some of the bearings that you're gonna find in there. And so a lot of times you'll just have a little click button that can release it, kind of like on this. Basically you just open it up and boom. However, on the Tatula, I actually have to take and use a screwdriver. Let's go ahead and open this up, very easy. And then once I have that loosened up, that actually sticks there. This is not going to come out. Twist to the side and pull out, and that'll come off. All right, on the inside of the cap, you will see a bearing. So we're going to take one drop of oil and put it right in that bearing. We'll let that sit over there for a second. Now on the other side of the spool, sometimes you'll see a bearing stuck right there, but I do not have one on this one because the bearing is actually in there. We'll get to that in just a second because we're gonna have to take off the spool tension knob. However, just to give you an example of what I'm talking about, this is the one off the loose and the bearing's actually sitting right there. If you see a bearing right there, just put a dab of oil. Back to the Tatula. All right, so now what we're gonna wanna do is clean off your spindles, right? You can use a paper towel to do that. We're gonna put that together now that we're able to get to that bearing. And then what I like to do is just you can put a little bit of oil on the ends of your spindle here, or you can put it down in the hole. So I'm gonna put it down in the hole right here, with just one drop, boom. Go to the other side, put one drop in the hole, boom, got it. And then put this back together, like so. Put this on, there we go. Kind of work that in. Now to get that other bearing, we're going to have to take your spool tension knob. So you have to line up your star drag and take the spool tension knob off. That is off to the side. You're going to see that bearing right there. Just go ahead and drop a dab of oil. Let that seep in. Work it around there. And the oil I dropped in from the other side is sitting right there, which is great. Right where I want it, not a ton of it. And we'll put this cap back on. Now, if you were like, hey, what in the world, if you're new to this, what is this spool tension knob for? It's part of your braking system that you can utilize to your advantage, along with the star drag, along with your thumb braking. And so there's a lot of things going on here that you can use to your advantage. And so I'll have to set that again a little bit later. It's a little tight. All right, so now let's walk through, let me give you an example. So on the bottom of this luge right here, you're gonna see a port. This is actually a grease port. You can take this out, you can see the main drive gear, you can paint some grease on that as you move it around, and that'll transfer to your pinion gear inside. And usually it will do the trick, so you don't have to take this all apart unless you want to clean it. However, some of them you'll also see just a hole down here, and that hole is not a place where you need to shove a bunch of oil in there, right? That'll thin out the grease, grease and you'll have a mess. There's a drain port in case you drop it into the water. It's going to drain water out. This one has neither. And so what we are going to do is we're going to take this all apart and get in there to see if it's dry, and to see if we can, basically if there's a lot of grease in there, it's kind of moved off to the side, we can paint it back on. So this is a lot of times where a lot of people freak out. It's really not incredibly difficult. So let's just start taking this apart. First, we're going to take off the screw, and as you're taking pieces apart, I always put them in the order of which I take them off. So I'm going to start up here to the right and take that cap off. Next, this is usually 10 millimeter. I don't have my 10 millimeter, it's somewhere. I'm going to use a crescent. Break that. Take that brass nut off, put it down, take your handle off. Now, it's spring loaded under here, so you're going to hold your star drag down, pull that up, just keep that in mind. Handle next, then star drag. Check the underside, nothing sticking to that. Great. Then you have a spring, another brass nut. I don't know what size that is, but nothing to worry about. That comes right off. All right, remember, so just make sure when you take this off, this has a recess for that spring. So just keep that in mind. Make sure always going to make sure nothing's sticking to the bottom. There's a little washer down here. All right, so put that brass nut, the washer next to that. And then this kind of holder, I'm not going to take any of that stuff apart. I'm just going to let it sit as is. Nothing holding on to the bottom. Sitting there. Next, a little tiny washer right here. Take that off. Next, what we're going to do is take these 3 screws out. Sometimes you have them on the inside as well. Like for instance, my Lew's 1, 2, 3, but you won't get this off unless you turn it around and got that one as well. But looks like there's only 3, so let's go ahead and take those out. And what you'll find a lot of times on these screws, they're not all the same length. And so I'm going to start, we'll take a look at these. So keep in mind, this one's right underneath the 7.3. And that is a certain size. We'll just go clockwise. Let's see if this one is the same size. Looks like it may be. These all 3 might be the same size screws. 1, 2, actually, slightly longer. All right, so keep in mind, the one that has especially recessed is a slightly longer screw, does not have blue on it either. All right, so now, start to be able to take this off and slowly, and now keep this upright, right? Because there's some springs in here. I'm gonna keep this upright. If you take this off, there's gonna be stuff falling out and you didn't know how it went in there. So let's kind of slowly take that off. Ooh, super clean. Super clean, kind of dry. So it's good, I'm glad we took this apart. So you got some bearings in there. So let's slowly put that down the side. Kind of let it sit there for a second. And there's some nice bearings right on the inside there. I'm not going to mess with those. They look nice and oiled. So I'm going to leave that alone. This is what I want to look at. So this is going to be your main drive gear right here. It's brass. And this is going to be your brass pinion gear. And right now, for all intents and purposes, that looks fairly dry. And so what I'm going to do, and there's not a lot of like grease sitting in here, which a lot of times I would just grab the factory grease, so there's clumps of it, but there's not. And you also see some gears down here that runs your worm gear back and forth, and it's plastic, so you don't need to paint it with grease, but the metal and metal is what you're looking for. So let's just get a little bit of this precision reel grease, and let's just kind of paint that in there. Don't need a ton. And I'm not even gonna go over to the pinion gear. It's gonna transfer by default. Oh yeah, there we go. I can see it already transferring over here. Now I'm going to reassemble this in the same order in which I disassembled it, so I'm not going to show you that. It's annoying. However, there's one thing, real quick, 1 second, before you go back on the water that you need to do. All right, so now I have this back together, no parts, so that's good, and this is super smooth. I love it. So one thing you're going to want to remember, and you don't want to learn this on a big fish, is you want to set your drag, and I would do that right now or right when you put this back on your reel, utilizing your lure, and so you don't do one of those deals and lose your fish because you didn't set your drag after you lubricated your reel. Now I'm also going to assume that if you're knocking out your bait casters that you likely have some spinning reels that have been maybe neglected as well, and I got the video for you on that. You can check that out right there. Thanks for watching, guys. See you.